I lost all my muscle. I had zero energy. I was depressed 24/7. Those are all signs of overtraining. But at the time, I didn't realize it. So in this video, I'm going to give you 9 hidden signs of overtraining so you don't suffer the same fate I did. First off, I'm going to give you the timeline of how it all happened. It was lockdown 2020. I just finished uni. I ballooned up to 110 kilos, although I did still have kind of visible abs because of the way my body's built. But I decided I wanted to go on the cut. So I went from 110 kilos in March 2020 all the way down to around 95, 98 kilos by the time gyms reopened in July 2025. But during lockdown, I was also introduced to concepts such as bulking and cutting, as well as training intensely, as in training harder than last time. I always remember that one YouTuber. And so when gyms reopened, I went on the bulk. I did that from July to around November. And then the second lockdown happened, which again was a real bummer because I'd made really good strength progress in that time. I was incorporating progressive overload. I was literally progressing week on week, even though I'd been training for maybe 5 years at that point. And second lockdown came around. I decided might as well go on a cut, bulking for like three months at this point, and I'd gone up to around 100 kilo again. So I went on the cut, lost weight again. I think I went down to around 90 kilos this time. I kind of got addicted to looking shredded for the first time, which was amazing to me. I continued cutting all the way till gyms reopened again. When gyms reopened again, I went back on a bulk, but this time I didn't really stick with it. I was losing my abs like very quickly. When I went on the second cut, I was introduced to cycling for the first time. Because the football season was over, I needed some way to burn calories. I decided I'd start cycling. And then I didn't even realize how many calories I was burning, to the point where I was literally eating 4,000 calories a day and losing weight still. I was cycling 1 hour a day, roughly, and then a massive 2-3 hour cycle ride on a Saturday as well. And then I was also going to the gym 5 days a week, hour and a half at a time. Again, I was still kind of fine, just losing weight, but nothing else. Got down all the way to 85 kilos. And for context, I was 95 kilo when I weighed myself when I was 16. All of a sudden, I'd gone down to 85 kilos. And then around July time, I decided I wanted to get into men's football. Well, back into men's football after being at uni. Even though I was going into my partner of uni, I wanted to play men's football concurrently as well. I joined the men's football team, and at this point, I had 2 training sessions a week, 2 football matches a week, which ended up being more like 1.5 because I got dropped from my uni team because I wasn't fully committed to them. And then 5 gym sessions a week, as well as cycling hour a day. I stopped doing the 2-hour cycles on the weekend, but I was still cycling an hour a day. And this was combined with the calorie deficit as well. As you know, I was losing weight. And yes, you may have noticed for 3 football sessions and 5 gym sessions a week, how do I have enough time for all of that? I wasn't taking any complete rest days, and then some days I was trained in the morning, play football in the afternoon. And then the first sign of overtraining was when university started again, I didn't want to meet my friends at all. I just felt sad and like depressed and very socially awkward again, because I had already beaten my previous history of socially awkwardness through my first year of uni, but then I started being socially awkward and anxious again and not enjoying hanging out with friends. I put that down to COVID, me not socializing much during COVID as no one could. But then around a month into my final year of uni, I started having issues sleeping as well. As in like I'd sleep for like an hour or 2, then I'd like wake up, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep for another 2-3 hours, then I'd go to sleep again. I didn't really think it was due to overtraining. I didn't know that was a thing. I just put it down to something wrong with me just having insomnia anyway. I started taking sleeping tablets, but yeah, it wasn't working at all. Again, the depression continued. It was getting worse and worse. I was living with a friend I didn't like talking to. I didn't want to talk to him at all. Didn't talk to any friends, family. But yeah, this continued throughout the rest of the year. And then I started binge eating. That was another symptom. I would get cravings for unhealthy food to the point where what I would do is I would try and burn like 5,000 calories in a day so I can come home, eat like a massive amount of like KFC and stuff. But then what that would do is that I would eat the 5,000 calories, but then I'd binge eat, go up to like 6,000-7,000 calories. I kind of stayed around 85 kg. I didn't go any lower than that, didn't get any more shredded than that, because I was constantly, I'd binge, then I'd restrict myself, then I'd binge. But because I was restricting myself, I wouldn't gain weight. That was kind of the rest of my final year of uni. Just depression, training, going gym, low energy, not being able to increase the weights. I was training as hard as I could. I was really putting in all my effort in, but I wasn't building any muscle because I was in an overtrained state where my testosterone was tanked. But then I finished my exams and then I started eating normally again. I was like, fuck this. I binged once and I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to restrict myself anymore. And my mood suddenly started improving. I realized that I was sleeping better. And I actually ended up overdoing it because I suffered from post-diet hyperphagia. I also went on holiday in that summer. There was like buffets, things like that. I gained like 10 kilos, 10, 12 kilos in the space of 2 months. And to the point where my coach was like, oh, you've gained weight. Obviously, he didn't know the backstory. He was just used to me being very skinny, which as a footballer is preferable. That's really my history of overtraining. And now we're going to go into 10 signs of overtraining and what to do if you're suffering from any of these signs. Okay, so before I list all 9 signs of overtraining, I want to give you a brief introduction to cortisol. Overtraining will induce something in the body called cortisol, which is a stress hormone in the body. And what cortisol does is it blocks testosterone. The blocking of testosterone means overtraining causes a reduction in testosterone. The reduction in testosterone will have an impact on all 9 of the signs I'm going to list out for you right now. The first sign is low energy. This is probably the most obvious, as if you're overexerting yourself, you would expect to feel mentally and physically tired. The toll overtraining takes on the body. It means that you just chronically have no energy at all. And that's what happened to me, myself. I was tired all the time, lacked energy to do anything. Get out of bed sometimes was a struggle. Number 2, low mood. What overtraining does is it affects your hormones, not just cortisol and testosterone, but also your levels of serotonin. And the impact on these hormones has an impact on your overall mood and can make you feel quite depressed, as I did. Number 3 is low sex drive, partly due to the reduction in testosterone, but also partly due to the change in your levels of libido. Your libido is your kind of sex drive hormone, you could say, for both men and women, or could even be impotent in the case of men as well. In my case, I wasn't dealing with women at the time anyway. I didn't try to get women my whole final year of uni. Although now you could say it would affect me, given I do have a partner, a woman in my life, you could say. But at the time, it didn't have much of an impact on my life. But it's just something you should watch out for. Even if women isn't something you're prioritizing at the moment, which is fair enough. Number 4, poor gym performance. What happened with me personally, there was a period where I did not increase my weights on any exercise for a long time. I'm talking maybe 6 months, maybe. Although part of that is obviously due to the reduction in weight. But even in times when my weight was steady, I did not gain any strength at all. But you're not just tired mentally and physically, which obviously has an impact on your gym performance, but your physical strength is also down as well as a result of your overtraining. Number 5, insomnia, or not being able to sleep properly. What overtraining does is it actually impacts your melatonin levels, or your body's ability to produce melatonin. And this will actually have an impact on you going to sleep, with melatonin being very important, to the point that you can actually get melatonin from the pharmacy if you struggle with sleep. And that's what I did. That's what I know. The chronic stress as well also has an impact on sleep quality and quantity, which is again why overtraining impacts your sleep.
I've just realised I forgot to record number 6. Number 6 is getting sick more often. When you're overtrained, it impacts your immune system. The impact on your immune system means you're more susceptible to getting sick, such as coughs, flus, things like that, trivial diseases. Hopefully, you shouldn't get more serious diseases due to the impaired immune system. But just the fact that you're coughing and sneezing more often isn't ideal, and is another impact of overtraining.
Number 7, soreness. A lot of you, especially when you're new to the gym, you get sore, think that's a good thing. It means you worked out hard, but sometimes it's not a good sign, especially if you're always sore for days on end. Me personally, I was sore, especially after leg day. I'd be sore for like 3-4 days afterwards. It wouldn't help the fact that I was playing football and cycling alongside doing the leg day. But what happens is when you work out, you create micro tears in the body. That's like the purpose of lifting weights. And then those micro tears get repaired. That's how you build muscle. But when you're overtrained, that recovery/repair process is impaired and even slower. And as a result, you end up sore for a much longer period of time. This is especially the case if you're training hard as well as overtraining, which, I mean, the two are kind of interlinked anyway, but sometimes soreness isn't always a good thing.
Quick interjection, but if you know anything about muscle building, you know that recovery is just as important as lifting the weights. I've got a free recovery guide. I'll put a link to it in the description, which give all the tools you need to maximize your recovery so you can build as much muscle as possible.
Number 8, which is kind of linked to the low mood and low energy points earlier, but lack of motivation to go to the gym or train. Me personally, I did not want to go to the gym at the time when I was overtraining, but I forced myself to go to the gym. And that was probably one of the good things that came out of this period, as in because I was forcing myself to go to the gym, I didn't skip a single session still, despite having no motivation to train. Nowadays, there's nothing that can ever stop me from training, because I've been through that period where I had no motivation every day and I still trained. You could say that the low motivation or lack of motivation to train actually benefited me personally, but obviously in general, a lack of motivation to train is never a good thing. You want to enjoy your training if you're going to stick to it long term. And finally, number 9, even though these seem a bit counterintuitive, but both loss of appetite and intense cravings, and yes, that is possible. That's how, me personally, I was going through a binge restrict cycle, as in I'd binge eat huge amounts on one day of like fast junk food, and then the next day I wouldn't eat for 2-3 days. It's partly because what overtraining does is it impacts your ghrelin and leptin hormones, which affect your levels of hunger, and the impact on these hunger hormones will mean you're either hungry all the time or have no appetite at all. Maybe some of you will see lack of appetite as a good thing, to be fair, but don't overtrain to have a lack of appetite, because the reduction in your testosterone anyway will lead to increased belly fat storage. Those are all 9 signs of overtraining. In terms of what to do if you do think you are suffering from overtraining, best thing you can do is just take a week or 2 off. You should be fine. But if you're suffering from these signs, just take 1 or 2 weeks off. No need to deload. You can take a deload, but I think it's just better to take a week or 2 off the gym, come back refreshed. And in terms of prevention, what you can do to actually prevent it, which I think will be the case for most of you, because the human body can take a lot. Historically, our ancestors have been doing things like slave labor. Chances are very few of you are probably suffering from overtraining anyway. To prevent it, limit your days in the gym, as in you don't need to go 7 days a week. You should have 1 or 2 rest days in there. I say 4 to 5 is ideal, but if you want to do 6, go for it. If you're cutting, you need to be especially careful, as in your body doesn't have as much nutrients and food to recover, so you need to be even more careful if you are currently on a weight loss journey. I'd say cap your days at the gym at 4 if you're currently trying to lose weight, especially that fat loss is the main goal, not muscle building. Sleep, make sure you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, and also getting quality sleep as well. So you can improve your sleep quality through things like limiting blue light exposure, meditation. I don't practice this stuff myself, so I'm not an expert in terms of improving quality of sleep, but at least make sure you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. In terms of training close to failure, I'm a bit conflicted, but even though I train to failure all the time, it's probably better you train close to failure rather than train at failure, to be honest. You can still get enough stimulus from training 1 or 2 reps of failure without risking overtraining and taxing your central nervous system. At least for most of your sets, you shouldn't be training to failure. Maybe a couple of sets in your workout, but most sets should be close to failure rather than at failure. Hydration is always important, even if you don't go to the gym. You should make sure you're hydrated at all times. Managing your stress as well, because stress produces cortisol, which has an impact on recovery and can lead to an increased risk of overtraining if you're highly stressed all the time. If you're young, let's say maybe around 19, 18 or under, you probably don't need to worry about overtraining. To be honest, like, kids can play in the field for like hours and hours and not suffer. But me personally, I was like 21 when I was suffering from overtraining. But if you're older, your body doesn't recover as quickly, so you need to be even more careful the older you are. That's it for this video. Feel free to leave a like if you found it useful or enjoyable. And follow me on Instagram. I'm going to put the link in the description to both my Instagram accounts. I might subscribe to my channel as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.